You know, it's not popular in my industry, but, you know, I cannot deny my faith. It's important for me to share that with people. God knows the things that he wants you to detach from.
A-list Hollywood star Mark Wahlberg just made the boldest claim ever. Jesus saved me. But he didn't stop there. He went on to expose Hollywood elites. What did he reveal that is getting everyone talking?
Mark and I visited this afternoon, and we had really a great conversation about a number of things, and I can tell you, he's a very normal person.
In this outstanding interview, what Cardinal Blase J. Kupish just said about Mark Wahlberg is quite revealing, but he had more to say.
The fact that, you know, he's in Hollywood and does all these motion pictures.
Even though what Kupish said is quite difficult to believe, considering how big a star Mark is, his question was right on point.
And so, Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about the neighborhood you grew up in?
And Mark's response was not just revealing, but also inspiring.
Look, I'm a street kid from Dorchester, Mass. Grew up in St. Greg's and St. William's Parish. My father was a teamster and truck driver. My mom worked odd jobs.
What he said here sounded more like an opening, as it was clear he had a lot to say.
9 kids. Unfortunately, well, that's a good thing, but unfortunately, you know, because my parents worked so hard just to provide, I had a lot of time to myself. And
Mark had almost everything every normal child could have asked for, providing parents. But there's more.
Most of that time I spent running around the streets, getting a street education. I left school at an early age. I quit school at 13. Ended up getting into a lot of trouble.
Mark didn't seem to make the right call with life, despite how comfortable his life was.
Incarcerated, tried as an adult at 16, 17, and that was a big wake-up call for me, Father, so I decided, you know what, I need.
It was clear that for the first time, Mark decided to do what works for him.
And a lot of people go to God, especially when they get in trouble, and you know, when I heard the jail doors close behind me, I started praying right away, but I knew that that was just the beginning for me.
For him, what was more important was not his decision, but the courage to stick to it.
I really wanted to turn my life around. And I made a commitment at that day, but it was still, you know, it's still every day. It's a process, you know. That's why I start my day every day by getting on my hands and my knees.
And this was where it started getting more interesting.
Prayer and reading scripture, and then I feel like I can go out there and conquer the world.
This was where he gave it a landing.
Or at least do my job and give back, because I've been blessed so much, and I know, you know, God put me in this position for a reason. And it's not
When you said that there was a moment.
The next question further drove things deeper, with Mark sharing more details.
One of those things where I didn't think there was anybody there to help me, because I was always looking to the wrong people. I was looking up to the wrong people.
And what he said was not just amazing, but was totally on another level.
Once the dust settled and I was able to look clearly, and I was sober for the first time in a while, I realized there were so many people around.
But that was not all he had to say, as there was a lot on his mind.
My parish priest, who I've known since I was 13 years old, Father James Flavin, who, you know, has married all my brothers and sisters, baptized all of my kids.
For Mark, as a younger guy, there was a lot he needed to learn, and finding someone to look up to was cardinal.
To him on a daily basis. You know, he was there, the members of the Boys Club, people who had dedicated their lives to serving, you know, their communities, had been there and were.
However, he was not yet done talking.
You know, and I was able to recognize the people that I should have been looking up to and looking to for inspiration. So they were there, but of course, it was also difficult for me.
It was obvious at this point that his life was on the right track, but he also went on to add the following.
Lived in the same neighborhood. I still had to go from my house to the train station to go to work, and you know, I had to pass all my boys on the street, and you know.
Though it was challenging for Mark, his will to be better was stronger.
Run with them anymore, and then, you know, if I wasn't with them, I was against them. So I had that to overcome, but I was committed to turning my life around, and you know.
But there was still more he had to say.
The mistake that I made was quitting school at an early age, because I always felt like I was at a disadvantage because I didn't have the education to fall back on, and even though as I became successful.
And what was added next reflected a great degree of regret.
I always felt like I still needed to be able to kind of have an education to fall back on, because God forbid if something happened. And, you know, Hollywood and the entertainment business.
Mark's story at this stage was a reflection of God's grace and favor. It was clear he was not qualified, nor did he deserve what he had.
To navigate. So I wanted that. So I was able to go back and get my diploma at 42, which I think was as big an accomplishment as anything.
Good.
Notwithstanding his inadequacies and fear, Mark pushed on. What he said next was unbelievable.
I can tell you, going back and studying even high school at a high school level at 42, it's like starting over.
And this is where it even gets much more interesting.
You know, I was kind of looking to my young children, 7, 8, 9, 10 for assistance. But, you know, I just kind of hit the books and did the right thing and had people around that could kind of help.
Talking about interesting, it even gets really funny and a bit embarrassing at the same time.
You know, one of the things that we see so often in film and in novels is the theme of redemption,
This is where the discussion took an unexpected turn.
where people's lives can start all over. Today, I find in talking to young people that
That wasn't all. There was more he needed to say.
one of the real struggles they have is dealing with failure, because sometimes failure is very public, or maybe it's the failure of other people that fail them, and so they
He was not done asking, but it already all sounds very interesting.
really don't know the path to redemption, where their life can start all over. What kind of things would you say to young folks who really feel stuck in their life and
And this is where it all started making real sense.
would like to come to a new way, or maybe put the past behind them, sacramentally or involvement in the church? What helps you?
After his question, it was clear that there couldn't have been a better question.
But I always feel like if I put my mind to something and I really do the work, I can accomplish something. And then if things don't turn out, because I live and breathe and
And what is more unbelievable are the responses Mark gave.
based on a lot of failure and success, right? But it's never for lack of effort. And as long as I do everything I can to do my best, then I feel pretty darn good about the effort.
That was just the beginning. This guy still had plenty to say.
Sometimes I win and succeed, and sometimes I don't. But I always felt like if I didn't do everything I could to prepare, then that's when I had regret. And that's when I felt disappointed in myself.
Listening to Mark share his experience, you can tell he has had his fair share.
But, you know, we are blessed to be able to have a fresh start every day. You know, you just got to be able to kind of have confidence in yourself.
Understanding fully what it means to fail severely and get back up, he added.
Surrounding yourself with good people. You know, when I realized that there was a huge community out there of believers and people that were committed and dedicated to the church.
And what he said next was nothing short of the truth.
The members of the community and really be a support system. That was a wonderful thing. So I think not being afraid to ask for help and, you know, and searching and seeking out people that can help you, but also.
And this is where he took it to the level.
You know, believing in yourself. I've seen so many wonderful stories of people who are, you know, kids up for adoption, and, you know, and they have multiple siblings in the youth services.
What he said here demystified the secret to growth and success.
Or within the adoption system, and they're deciding that they're going to go and get an education on their own and go and take care of their family.
But what he added made it clear that nothing beats a determined mind.
Many wonderful success stories out there. Just you have to believe and have faith and know that you can accomplish it and turn your life around.
And this is where he gave his point a landing.
Tell me a little bit from your perspective how family life is important to you in terms of your faith, in terms of keeping you going, keeping you honest.
If you thought you had heard the best of it, then you must see the next question Kupik asked Mark. But that was not all of the question the Cardinal asked.
Family's the most important thing. You know, family are, you know, the ones that are always going to have your back. They can always call you out on everything as well. I mean, you know, it's like my brother.
Tell me, my 5 sisters do all the time.
The response Mark gave the Cardinal will completely blow your mind.
5 brothers and 3 sisters, so, you know, it's the opposite. But you know, we could always mess with each other, but nobody could mess with one another. We always have.
It is easy to relate to the response of the A-lister, especially if you grew up in a large family. Then he added,
and it's funny because my mom now, who's been through so much, is now at this point of her life really feeling like a sense of relief. And I'm the youngest, I'm 46.
What he just said here makes absolute sense, but he was not done yet.
Find like, oh God, I can finally rest. My kids are doing really well.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't tell me it's going to take this long to have peace, like real peace, because I've got a 14-year-old, an 11-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 7-year-old.
One thing consistent with the way Mark spoke was that he had experienced a lot both as a kid and as a grown-up.
14-year-old daughter right now, and it is tough. I don't understand the hormones, the emotions, but it's the most important thing. And for me, especially with my children, you know,
Even though what he said was pretty hilarious, it made much sense.
a goal that I always wanted to accomplish, I wanted my kids to have a Catholic education. I wanted to have a faith-based education. That was a big deal for me. And they're all going to Catholic school.
What Mark shared next revealed that he was not just walking the path of faith alone.
Sometimes, you know, we were talking about this earlier, sometimes she may say things just to push my buttons about her lack of faith or lack of belief. But for me, I don't make them, they go to Mass with school. I don't make them go to Mass with me every Sunday.
And what he added showed what an amazing father he is to his children.
But they know that I will not, cannot miss no matter what. You know, I will start my day every single day in quiet for, you know, a good 25 minutes or so.
Beyond that, the words faithfulness and commitment will be the best words to describe his prayer life.
It's just mandatory. It is. So hopefully just leading by example and them seeing how important it is and how vital it is to my existence.
But that was not all he said, he went on to say.
That will make them kind of want to wonder why it's so important and kind of seek that kind of spirituality.
That's right.
And I think that will give them, you know, obviously all the tools that they'll need to succeed.
It was at this point that he made his argument. In another fascinating interview, this was Mark's bold declaration about his faith.
Faith means so much to you. Have you always talked about it? Or did you feel at some point like, okay, I have a platform here and I just want to share?
Mark unashamedly stands out as a Christian despite his status in Hollywood.
I have, you know, it's a balance. I don't want to jam it down anybody's throat,
Yeah.
but I do not deny my faith. That's an even bigger sin. You know, it's not popular in my industry, but, you know, I cannot deny my faith.
And what he said next would leave your jaw dropped.
It's important for me to share that with people, but I have friends from all walks of life and all different types of faiths and religions. So, you know, it's important to respect and honor them.
The next question Mark was asked was quite a discovery.
About what you're doing with this fasting, because most people think of fasting and they think not eating.
Yes.
Giving up
Yeah.
eating. But fasting can be a spiritual practice. Tell me about it.
Yes.
His response to this question was even more interesting than the first.
Different elements to fasting. And I think the important thing to understand is if you have, first of all, if you have issues with food, there are other things. God knows the things that he wants you to detach from.
Not only that, it also revealed the depth of his understanding of things of God.
All know those things that are, you know, make us feel guilty, don't make us feel as good as we should. So being able to detach from those things and focus on, you know, good habits as opposed to bad.
And this is where it made much sense.
There are challenges for fasting. Like today, I won't have any meat. I'll have one meal today, and I'll do that every Friday throughout Lent and Good Friday. But just challenging people to be better versions of themselves.